Whoever believes in Allah and the last day, let him maintain strong family ties. A hadith that I came across, which made me decide to make a surprise visit to my sister in Pennsylvania. When I read it, I was overcome by shame, since the last time I actually saw my sister was last year, when she asked me to babysit her daughter Fatima. My sister asked me to take care of Fatima for a few days as she was about to give birth to a second daughter. To be completely honest, I had no clue how to take care of a baby girl. I could hardly take care of myself, but I couldn't say no to my sister. When my brother-in-law dropped her off, she didn't even know how to say my name. I had no idea how I was supposed to entertain her. I didn't even know how to break the ice. So I started reflecting on how the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, dealt with the children around him. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was so loving to everyone, but at the same time he was particularly compassionate to children. He would constantly be seen playing with them, joking with them, embracing them, visiting them when they were sick, lifting their spirits when they were down. He would even try to speak to the non-Arab children in their own languages just to show them that he loved them just as much. And a young girl could take his hand and walk him all around Medina without him letting go of her hand until she let go of his. When Al-Hassan and Hussein used to jump on his back while he was praying, he used to wait for them to come down and then place them on his lap gently. He once said, "When I stand for prayer, I enjoy prolonging it, but once I hear a child crying, I cut it short so that I don't cause distress to the child's mother." We often get impatient with children, forgetting that we were once them, and sometimes still act like them. And one day they will be like us, and hopefully show us mercy the way we showed it to them. The Prophet, peace be upon him, showed interest in their interests. He played with their toys. He even once asked about one of the kids' birds, saying, "Ya Umair, ma fa'ala an-nughayr?" We seem to forget at times that loving children is of the easiest sunnahs and of the easiest ways by which we gain Allah's love. For our Prophet, peace be upon him, said that those who do not show compassion will not receive it. Compassion is a natural part of our humanity, and it's even further enhanced through our Islam. However, if it isn't cherished and exhibited, we may lose it forever. Imagine how different the world would be if we were all just a little bit more loving and kind to our family members. And love is not only expressed through words. The Prophet, peace be upon him, despite carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, still paid attention to the small things like drinking from the same part of the glass, sneaking in a surprise kiss, even challenging you to a surprise race. There wasn't a chore too small nor a moment too quick for him to show you that he loved you and was paying close attention to you. Oh Fatima, you have no idea how much I miss you. You may be young, but you've taught me so much. You've taught me how to follow the example of our greatest teacher in being loving and caring towards one's family. I work for the Human Resources Department at a local engineering firm. I also just applied for another job at a far more prestigious agency. In that interview, I was pretty confident I'd get the job. I knew exactly how this process worked since I'm usually on the other side of the table interviewing candidates just like myself at my current firm. The interviewers told me that I and one other individual were the strongest candidates. I'm pretty sure I'll beat them out. Not only because I killed the interview, but because I also have my ways. Every night before I sleep, I try to read a few pages from the biography of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I've always found his life fascinating. In fact, before I got busy with work, I used to attend weekly classes about his life and used to feel like it was as if he was in front of me teaching me how to live. Even if Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad, stole, I would punish her. Fear Allah and do justice amongst your children. 7 people will be shaded by Allah, the first of them, a just ruler. Now I remember him. He was the guy that applied for a job at my firm last year. I knew he was qualified. I knew I should have picked him. But I overlooked him and instead chose one of my friends from high school. Come to think about it, I interviewed them both the same day. My friend was clearly less qualified, but I nominated him to the executive committee and he was employed. This number is no longer in service. How am I supposed to reach this guy? I hope he still has the same address. Oh Allah, help me find him. Oh Allah, I beg you to forgive me for being unfair. I've never realized how difficult this would be until I was in a similar position, waiting to hear back. He didn't remember me at first, but eventually I refreshed his memory. I begged for his forgiveness and told him that the job was once again vacant, and if he reapplied, I would be sure to nominate him to the committee with the highest of recommendations. After a moment of silence, he said, I have to ask, why now? What suddenly awaked your conscience? Muhammad, the Prophet of God. We need to read about his life and challenge our own vices with his principles, to read about his sense of justice, to read about how when Usama bin Zayd came to intercede on behalf of a powerful woman, he responded by saying that even if his own beloved daughter Fatima stole, he would treat her no different. We have to read about his call to establish justice, be it against our own family members and even against ourselves at times. His call to uphold justice and equality for all of the children of Adam. All of you are from Adam, and Adam was from dirt. There is no difference between one who is white and one who is black, except in piety. As for that new job that I had applied for that I was sure I would get because I had my ways, particularly my uncle being the manager of that company, who already guaranteed me the job, he told me to meet him at Asr prayer that day. I was shocked, disappointed, and staggered. He chose the other candidate because he said he was more qualified. He explained to me how difficult it was for him to overlook me even though I was his own nephew, but he felt he had to be fair. As disappointed as I was, I told him I was proud of him. And I was. Our Prophet taught us that everyone should have their rights, and that everyone should be given a fair opportunity to succeed in this life and the hereafter. One day, my neighbor caught me by surprise and asked me to tell him a story that he said would illustrate the ethics of your religion. A story that he said would persuade me and help me appreciate Islam. The question completely startled me, but I quickly realized the famous story about an imam in London. Several years ago, an imam moved to London. He used to take the same bus every single day with the same driver to a stop near his mosque. One day as he was riding, he paid the bus fare and sat down, realizing that the driver had mistakenly given him an additional 40 pence. When the imam sat down, he considered keeping the extra change since it was an insignificant amount anyway. But as he was deboarding, he felt guilty and handed the 40 pence back to the driver and said, "Sir, I think you gave me too much change." The driver smiled and said, "Aren't you the new imam in this area? You know, lately I've actually been thinking about stopping by your mosque and learning about Islam. But before I did that, I wanted to see what you would do if I gave you extra change." As the imam stepped off of the bus, he was so shaken by the incident that he grabbed the pole, looked up to the sky, and cried out, "Oh Allah, I almost sold Islam for 40 pence. My neighbor said, "Let's face it though, if it was a significant amount of money, the imam would have kept it." I insisted that this was the inherent nature of the Muslim and he would have given it back even if it was 40,000 pounds. But he shook his head in disapproval, indicating he wasn't impressed. I didn't think that my neighbor thought much of the imam story. I thought he'd probably forgotten about it by the next day. Little did I know that just as the bus driver tested the imam, my neighbor wanted to test me by leaving a bag of a ton of money in the parking garage. I had no clue he was watching. I must admit, it was a whole lot of money, but I really didn't think twice about it. I acted in accordance with what my conscience and religion commanded me to do, knowing that if the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was in my shoes, he would have done the same. I had to find a way to get it back to its owner. I posted signs, I made calls, but got absolutely no response. People must have thought it was some kind of scam. My neighbor says to me, "Muslims can't be tempted, huh?" I knew you'd give in and spend the money. So I told him what happened. "I'm not here to defend myself," I said. "But what I'd really like to do is teach you what our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us." I gave him the donation receipt from the charity to which I donated the money and informed him that the car I was driving was actually my uncle's car, which I was borrowing because my car had to be fixed. So then I asked him, "Have you filed your taxes for the year yet? I think we should get this receipt to your CPA." Imagine having a nasty neighbor that verbally abuses you in every conceivable way. But despite all of that abuse, when he travels or has to find someone to watch his precious valuables, he trusts no one more than you because he knows your integrity. That was our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. As we walked back home that day, my neighbor thanked me for the time we spent together, telling me I completely changed his perception of Islam and its Prophet. I then shared with him that it was our Prophet who said, "Honor the trust of those who give it to you, and do not betray the one who betrays you." What caught my attention is that my neighbor was willing to test me with such a huge amount of money, just to test my decency as a Muslim. إِنَّا عَرَضْنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا. I hope that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would have been proud of how I responded. Rasulullah, we testify that you have fulfilled your trust and conveyed to us the message. We only pray that we can continue to convey on your behalf without betraying your trust.